Joining me now, Chief Creative Officer at Turning Point USA, Benny Johnson. Benny, thank you so much for joining me. Benny, in your words, what's at stake in these two elections here in Georgia? And also, do you think Republicans are fighting hard enough?
Yeah, so what's at stake is freedom versus slavery, the slavery of socialism, the slavery of having the government control every aspect of your life, the slavery of not having the ability to choose one party or another, living in a completely one-party controlled state. The Democrats have made very clear their intentions to legalize mail-in balloting throughout the country, permanently in every single state, mailing out mail-in ballots to all 300 plus million Americans. This is legislation that already sits in the Democratic House. It has been rife with fraud and abuse this election cycle, and making this permanent in America is going to clearly mean that Republican will never be able to win nationwide or maybe even locally ever again. Also opening the borders and providing citizenship for 20 million illegal immigrants here in this country would mean a demographic shift unlike anything we have ever seen. That would be catastrophic and can only happen if, in fact, there are chambers, both chambers of Congress controlled by a single party. So that, along with the Green New Deal, along with every conceivable wild socialist dream that AOC has, can only be possible if the Republicans lose the Senate. A bright spot for Republicans is indeed that Nancy Pelosi's majority in the House has been whittled down to a single thread. She is most likely going to have 5 or 6 person majority. That's not a functional majority at all. And so she is most likely going to even face an incumbent challenger for her speakership. You need 218 votes to be affirmed speaker from the floor, and she does not have that right now. And so ostensibly, AOC and Kevin McCarthy control the House floor more than Nancy Pelosi does because she just doesn't have the votes to become speaker. So there are bright spots indeed, but a perilous future for conservatives if indeed they lose the Senate.
Yeah, and you were talking about AOC, and she's made it very clear that she's going to help the Democrats in Georgia. She's going to head down there and try to get people excited and try to get people to go out and vote. And we've heard other Democrats suggest that people should move to the state of Georgia so they could register in this election and vote for the Democrats. They made it clear they are going to fight tooth and nail for these seats. And I was asking you, do you think Republicans are fighting hard enough?
Well, with what's at stake, certainly they need to fight like the country depends on it. This is certain. This is a state that has gone red for so many elections. It's a state in the Deep South. It's a state that has a Republican governor. And it's shocking, frankly, to many conservatives, you see this boil over online, that the unlimited mail-in balloting that is so rife with fraud and has seen so many abuses across the country is allowed to just carry on in Georgia. Also, the Dominion voting systems that are seeing such flaws in the way that they have tabulated votes and have been reported on many times for their ability to be hacked and to not have votes tabulated correctly, and to even mark ballots. These are all in factual reports from establishment journalists. This is a system that is readily in use in Georgia. And so it is stunning to many conservatives around the country as to how these fraud vectors are allowed to continue inside of the Georgia electoral process when you have chambers of the Georgia state legislature and the Georgia executive branch controlled by conservatives. Many are curious as to Brian Kemp, the governor of Georgia's chief of staff, who is a Dominion lobbyist, and perhaps there is another scandal there as to kickbacks for friends. And Steph, you and I have both lived in D.C. We know how this works. You give your friends the sweetheart deals when it comes to these massive government contracts, $100 million of which was spent on Dominion voting systems in Georgia.
Yeah, and you hear even Republicans say, "Oh, well, these voter fraud concerns that we have, we could just deal with it in the next election. Just give the Democrats a win on this one, and we'll tackle it later," which I think is just totally absurd. Obviously, it's not going to be taken care of later. And also, like, why would you give Democrats a win if it was unfairly given? You know what I mean? Really quickly, one of the Senate candidates, Reverend Raphael Warnock, he is Loeffler's opponent. He said this. He said, "America needs to repent for its worship of whiteness." That is really, really disturbing. I just want to get your quick reaction to that.
Certainly, it's also racist, because if you were to flip the races in that statement to any other race, it would be decried as one of the more racist things ever said in modern history by a Senate candidate. No, Republicans can't just go and fix this next time around. It's stunning and shocking to many conservatives, myself a conservative commentator, that more wasn't done for election integrity this cycle. Certainly the country is at stake, and Republicans need to get deadly serious about this issue if they ever want to win an election again. And I'm talking all the way down to dog catcher.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Well, Benny, we're going to leave it here. Thank you.
Thanks, Steph.